Okay. It appears everybody's in who's going to be in. So we'll get started here. I want to thank you all for being here, first of all. Tarrant County will see new leadership this year in two of its most important roles in government. Lynn Whitley is leaving the office of county judge after 16 years in that position, while District Attorney Sharon Wilson is stepping down after 8 years. Fort Worth Report, KERA and SteerFW welcome you to a debate of candidates vying for those offices. I'm Sam Baker. I'm the morning edition host with KERA, the public radio and television station for North Texas. The Fort Worth Report is a nonpartisan news source at fortworthreport.org, and Steer Fort Worth is a nonpartisan nonprofit organization focused on promoting civic engagement. Now, over the next 2 hours, you'll hear the candidates answer questions from our panelists, Fort Worth Report journalists Jacob Sanchez and Rachel Barrett. There will be 4 debates. Candidates will answer 4 questions per debate. We'll begin with the Republicans running for county judge, followed by the Republicans seeking to become district attorney. In our second hour, the Democrats are running for county judge, and then the Democrats vying for district attorney. Now, here are the rules for today. Candidates will each have 1 minute to answer each question and 30 seconds each for a rebuttal. There are no opening statements, but candidates will have 1 minute each for a closing statement. We'll begin the questioning by alphabetical order of the candidates' names. After the first question, we'll move down the alphabet for the next ones. Now, 5 Republicans are vying for the chance to succeed Glenn Whitley as the next Tarrant County judge. Byron Bradford is a business owner and retired service member. He served 29 years in the Army. Robert Trevor Buker is a juvenile correctional officer. Tim O'Hare is a former Tarrant County Republican Party chairman and a former Farmers Branch mayor and councilman. And Betsy Price is a former mayor of Fort Worth and former Tarrant County tax assessor collector. Kristen Collins is the 5th candidate in the Republican race, but we were unable to contact her. So let's get started. Jacob has the first question.
Mr. Bradford, you're first. Readers want to know about property taxes. Tarrant County's current rate is 22.9 cents. This is the lowest rate the county has levied since at least 2007. Still, property owners face higher tax bills because of appraisals. For residents to see a lower tax bill, the Commissioners Court would have to adopt a rate lower than the no new tax rate. What steps would you take to lower property taxes, but still maintain a balanced budget? Please be specific.
Well, the first thing I would tell the individual looking at their taxes is you can challenge that assessment, number 1. You can also appeal that. You have 6 weeks to appeal that assessment, number 2. And number 3, they can also see if they have any discounts, if they're a senior citizen or a veteran. One thing I love to do as the next county judge is to see if we can raise a home exemption. I talked to a voter yesterday, and she let me know how much it was, and I said, you know what, we should probably double that, the exemption to what it currently is. I think that will have an immediate effect on lowering the taxes for our citizens in Tarrant County. That is into my answer.
So are you just specifically talking to the property tax or the taxes as a whole? Because the rate is 45.6 with everything. I just want to make sure.
Just property taxes for the county.
So, I mean, I'm not privileged on that, so I don't want to, get up here and say I do, but I will say this, that I want to get with a group of people that are more privileged to that and kind of work together, because at the end of the day, we have to work as a team. And that's one thing that I can say I want to do all day long, but, when you put your hands on it, it's a whole different ballgame. So, yes, like Mr. Bradford said, one thing that I have heard is we can challenge, we can look and see what exemptions are out there. We need to look at bringing homestead, because apparently we don't have a homestead, which I don't understand why we do that, because every other place that I've lived at has had that.
Okay. Well, thank you to KERA and the Fort Worth Report for putting on this debate, and thank you all for being here. So the entire overall county property tax rate is set by the Commissioners Court. That's half of it. It's the county tax rate, but then it's also the hospital district tax rate. So the combined overall tax rate is over 45 cents per $100. We are so far above the next closest Republican county in terms of our overall county tax rate. Collin County is the next closest. There's 16 cents per $100 of value. So what you do is multifaceted approach. First thing is you put in a job freeze where when people leave offices, you don't put new people in their place unless it's essential positions. You don't touch law enforcement, and that includes the sheriff's department or the DA's office. And then you look for ways to cut waste. All government becomes bloated and overgrown, and you look for specific positions that are no longer needed. And when a position leaves, then you look for ways to divide up the duties. And what does government typically do? It typically puts out something to say, hey, let's get another person in, as opposed to can we do without this job, or can we move these duties into different departments or to different people? That's part of it. It's kind of a longer answer than a minute can get you.
Well, thank you all for being here. And, you know, I've done this. As your tax assessor, we were able to cut waste from our budget there, made that office much more efficient. As the mayor of Fort Worth, we cut the rate 7 times as your value rose. People have to know, we have to educate them about the property tax system. We also need to revisit the homestead exemption, and we need to work with, there are 69 elected officials in the county whose budgets will be impacted, as well as 4 other commissioners, and the county hospital board will work with them to try to drive this down.
Mr. Buker, this question is for you. Last year, Governor Greg Abbott called for an audit of the election results in Harris, Collin, Dallas, and Tarrant counties. Preliminary results showed Tarrant County had 0 discrepancies. Given those facts, how would you improve the way elections are run in Tarrant County?
Well, first, my plan that I've moved forward with the commissioners is to have a committee of 4, you know, and this is voluntary only. You know, 1 starting with the election judge, which the people will vote on, not the commissioners' court, because we need hands off when it comes to that. The next one will be 4 precinct chairs, which they will all, you know, go into elections and vie for that position. So who, you know, whoever gets the majority vote or whoever gets into the general will win, and that's one way we can do it. Another one is we really have to look at get rid of the machines because there's too much discrepancies. I know that they did just a soft audit. It wasn't a hard audit because we got canvassers out there that are finding phantom voters in lots that don't even have houses on there. So that's a big issue. So, you know, Greg Abbott didn't do exactly the audit the way he said. We have people actually looking at that. And, you know, because with Greg Abbott, we already know he just puts his finger in the wind, and whichever way it blows, that's the way it goes. But as far as that goes, with me, that's the first step. The second step is getting rid of machines. The third step is we don't have any faith in our election administrator. We have to get rid of them.
Is that me? Okay. So I've proposed a position called an election integrity officer, which would serve 2 purposes. Purpose number 1 is to act as an internal auditor for the county and oversee or review what goes on in elections administration, make recommendations to the panel that would oversee this position. The panel that I propose would be the county judge, an attorney, the commissioner is voted on by the full commissioner court and the sheriff's department. Second piece that this would do is this person would go out and actually seek to find voter fraud. We know it goes on. Do we know how much? No, but we know it goes on, and a lot of it goes on in the mail-in ballot harvesting. But the election integrity officer will go a long way to making sure our elections are secure and people trust it.
Yeah, I think people are very nervous about our elections. I feel like they're basically secure. There were some findings in the audit that need to be looked at. The County Elections Commission is made up of the county judge, the tax assessor, the county clerk, and the chairman of the 2 parties. If people have issues or if there's fear, we have a big elections department. They need to be recharged with what they're doing. If there's distrust with our elections administrator, then that commission needs to go back and revisit his hiring and take a look at why he wasn't properly vetted the first time, and is it the right fit for Tarrant County?
I don't believe we have a problem with our elections. I've talked to the election judges. I've talked to some executives here when I first moved to Tarrant County, and they let me know there were not any issues. And we do have bad actors out there, don't get me wrong. I understand someone's always trying to beat the system, but we have to invest in our election system, make sure we can keep our election system secure. That's number 1. That's the only thing we can control, is make sure we are investing in our election system and the right personnel, and put them in a proper position so they can make an informed decision to make sure we're being taken care of the citizens and no one's abusing our vote and our democracy. Thank you very much.
Now, I did mention there was the opportunity for rebuttal, so did any of you want to make one to anything anyone said? Okay.
Mr. O'Hare, you'll be up first. Education has emerged as an increasingly prominent concern. Mayor Price and you have both focused on it prior to running for county judge. But traditionally, county judges don't have much say over how schools are run. How do you see the role of county judge impacting education in Tarrant County?
So the county judge is probably the most powerful elected official in the entire county. You know, when you look at state reps or state senators, they're one of a very large body. The county judge is the chief executive of the county and one of only 5 people voting on what amounts to about a $2 billion budget. So how I would use the position of county judge for things like critical race theory. Critical race theory has no place in our public schools. It teaches children to hate America. It teaches children of color that they can't achieve their full potential because another group has set the system up where they can't. That's not what we should be teaching our children. It's anti-American. And so you use the power of the office to shine a light on where stuff like that is happening in the school districts. So I formed an organization called South Lake Families. When critical race theory was attempted to be put into South Lake Carroll schools, we stood up, we fought against it, and we won. And I've now taught people at school districts all over the county on how to do the same thing and take back their school boards. And as county judge, I'd use the power of that office to make sure we have good, strong, pro-American people in every office and every position in the county.
Education has to be a passion of all of us. It really is the backbone. It's the equalizer for kids to get them out of poverty, to get them better jobs. It's exactly what our business community wants. And we worked on this. I've worked on this since I had children in school. I'm a product of public education, and so are my children. We must have strong public education, and as such, the mayor had the opportunity to use the bully pulpit, and we did that to start Reed Fort Worth to work on 3rd grade achievement. We started Tarrant 2 and 3, which is cradle to career. The county judge has the opportunity. The county judge heads up the mayor's council, which is made up of all 41 mayors in the county. Bring them together, bring the superintendents together. I've worked with all of the superintendents in our school districts the last 2 or 3 years. And add your business community in. Let's see what it is that they need. How many of our kids really should go to college? How many of them need a 2-year certification? The estimate is that 62% of the jobs coming up, the kids are only going to need a 2-year certification. It's about pulling them together and uniting them.
I'm an advocate of education. I was a non-traditional student when I went back to college at age 28. Had a brief stint from the service, went back to the Guard. I earned my master's in 2009. To be honest, as a county judge, we should focus on the infrastructure of our county, the water, the grid. Education is important, and I'm an advocate of it, and I'm not downplaying it. However, this is not the forum for that. The forum for this is to make sure that right now we have a 2030 committee come up with, we have the planners that said we need $188 billion for our infrastructure. Currently, we only have $102 billion. Governor Abbott's only advocating the next 10 years, $77 billion. He is still short of what we need. Ladies and gentlemen, 2050, our population in Texas is going to double. We think we have bad traffic now, it's going to be much worse. We need to focus on making sure we can keep our quality of life as people move to Texas, because they're going to keep coming. But what's going to happen if we don't get in front of this, the businesses are going to start leaving Texas because their product is stuck on the congestion in the freeways. That's what we need to focus on, make sure businesses do not leave Texas, and we stay the number 1 business in the nation. State.
Well, as the county judge, you know, we kind of see the ESSER funds and the American Rescue Plan, and a lot of the funds go through that. And here's the issue with that. Are they abusing it? Absolutely. How much of that is going to bonuses? A lot. I've seen it. You know, for the whole year that I've fought, and currently now fighting some of the ISDs on the pulpit, literally grabbing the pulpit and speaking out of these injustices that's happened to our kids. CRT and SEL does have no place in our schools, none. So I've talked to a few people, some of them are attorneys, and I said, what can I do with that? Can I hold it back and give it to other schools that are acting right with it, or can I just say, you know, I'm going to hold it at the moment? And they said, yes, I can. So that's what I plan on doing. If I have to starve it out a little bit for them to start acting right, that's fine. If we need to start having audits, random audits that just start happening to see what they're doing with the money, that's what we need to do. I mean, $2 million for racial equity committee, everybody making over 6 figures, and our kids reading at a 3rd grade level at 7th and 8th grade, there's no reason for that. There's no excuse and no justification for that. These kids are going to be taking over these jobs that we will eventually retire from or pass away from, or, you know, at the end of the day, just leave.
Mayor Price, this is a reader question. The debate over who should have more say at the local level has heated up in recent years as the legislature has restricted what local governments can do. The COVID-19 pandemic is just one example. Early on, we saw county judges take the lead on pandemic response until Governor Greg Abbott made coronavirus measures consistent across the state. Where do you fall on the local versus state control debate, and how do you plan to work with the folks in Austin?
Local government is the backbone of all government, and it must be. You're on the front line. As your elected officials, we're on the front line. Nobody sees their local voters more than local elected officials. We'll see you when you go get a haircut, when you go to the grocery store or to the drugstore and hear your issues. Working with the state legislature is something that's critical also. Local elected officials need to be able to know their state officials and feed that information. For the 20 years I've been in public service, we fought hard to keep local issues at the local level because you're voting for us to be able to represent you. You're voting for them too, but you're not going to see them every day. I really think it's a critical issue. It's got to stay local. We have to continue to be able to communicate with our elected officials, get to know the delegation. I know every one of our delegations have their personal phone numbers, can work with all of them. I have all the Washington delegations, and we've done that, and they generally understand that this is where it starts.
Well, we all know that what happened with the pandemic last year. You know, it cost a lot of people their jobs, a lot of their livelihoods. I mean, some of them will never get back. Some of these businesses are barely getting out of the black. If you're not familiar with that, it means they're barely breaking even. So that means the owner's not taking a profit. Some are just not getting into the green. Now, the whole start of this is we have to ask, was it constitutional? Absolutely not. Article 128, 29, 362 said absolutely not in the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights says during the No Disaster Declaration Act shall any and all inalienable rights shall not be infringed upon, and they were infringed upon. So, you know, working with that, but I'd say if you didn't do it unconstitutional, we should have no conversation moving forward. It relies on the local level.
We must remember that, okay, 90% of the business in America are sole proprietorships, 10% of corporations. However, the sole proprietorships only make 10% of the money. So when we shut down those sole proprietors, mom and pop stores, those small businesses, it's harder for them to get their people back and their product back than it is a corporation. They can cut people and still move forward. However, mom and pop, the pandemic affected them, but we see how much it affected them. I'm a small business owner, so I was affected in my business. But I kept pushing forward. But it does, you know, I'm still trying to get my feet back under me, thank God. But anyway, my time is up.
Well, I believe in freedom, and I believe in limited government. And so any effort at the state level or the federal level that seeks to limit how government can encroach upon our lives, I'm for. And the pandemic is a perfect example. We had county judges, mayors, all across the state of Texas, shutting businesses down, shutting churches down. May not be the popular answer in this room, but I can tell you I would never shut down a church, heaven help us, and I would never declare one business essential over another and try to shut them down. There are businesses that will never reopen. Every business is essential to the people that own it and to the people that work there, and I am for efforts to limit control at every level of government all across the board.
So I believe we've gone through the 4 questions, so we'll move ahead with closing statements. And why don't we just start from this way on down. Mr. Buker.
Well, my name is Robert Trevor Buker, and I'm running for Tarrant County Judge. As y'all know, I'm the candidate that you see a lot on the screen, and I'm fighting all the ISDs from Keller, Crowley, Arlington, and Fort Worth. I've been there. You know, I've been standing next to the people fighting. My service is to you, not to anything more than that. I'm not rubbing elbows with the elites, not rubbing elbows with the establishment. If it's not for the people, I don't want to see it move. You know, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of trust to gain back. And that's where I stand with that. I'm the only candidate that has literally hit the podium and talked all kinds of crazy noise, and yes, I'm being funny there, to Whitley about everything that he's done, you know, from the $2 billion worth of collateral that's sold to the New York Federal Reserve. So now we have to fight that battle because that's how broke we really are. It's time we shine a light on all the stuff he's done behind the scenes, pushing ourselves from the North Central Texas Council of Governments. We have to get away from all these backdoor deals. I'm not for that. I'm not going to go that route. You can't buy me. I'm not going to be bought. There's no way you can. You know, as long as God's on my side and I got the Constitution on my side, there's not much you can go over.
I thank God for this opportunity. I was a kid that grew up in Carson County, Texas, not far from here. I joined the service in '88 as a high school kid, and a 17-year-old went to basic training in Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I wasn't the brightest kid in high school, but I had great work ethic, my coaches always told me. I was an all-state linebacker, I was an All-American, all-state linebacker, all-state powerlifter. And one thing I took is my work ethic. I took that with me to the military in the 90s. I later went back and got my degree in 2004 from Tarrant State University. And I am the only candidate up here that has a DD-214 that says sufficient time for retirement, honorable character of service. And also I found out this morning, it said the Secretary of the Army can call me back if he wanted to, believe it or not. I'm okay with that. To be honest, I felt like I left an impression. The military left an impression on me, but I also hope I left an impression on the young soldiers I left to defend this country. Again, my name is Byron Bradford, Tarrant County Judge. Thank you for your time.
So my wife Kristen is in the audience there in the second row with our 4 little girls. I'm running for county judge because I want them to have a bright future. When I was born until the time I was 14 years old, I lived in a 900 square foot house, and my father left when I was 6 months old, and my mom raised me until 14 when she remarried my stepfather. I am the epitome of the American dream. I believe in the American dream. I believe America is the best nation that's ever existed on this planet and has done more good for people inside its walls and outside its walls than any other nation in history. And we right now have a serious ideological battle going on in our country. We have one side that wants to see capitalism continue and a godless and a godly society continue, and we have another that wants to see a socialist society and doesn't want a godly society. People need to know I will fight for people, not special interests, not government groups. I will fight for people, for hardworking families, and I believe with all of my heart America's days, best days, are ahead of us if we stay on the right track.
Tarrant County is at a crossroads, and you need an experienced, proven leader, someone who is passionate about this county, who has served here, owned a business here, not someone who just lives here and works in Dallas and Collin County. Folks, this is about lowering your property taxes, protecting your public safety through our police. We fought back efforts to defund our police department. We cut government waste. You want a county judge at this time who can be congenial, a conservative who brings the right values to the table with a proven track record, but someone who can unite people, who will talk to people. As mayor and as tax assessor, I didn't believe you governed well behind a desk. I won't govern behind the desk as your county judge. I will be out among all of you, hearing what you have to say, hearing what our teachers have to say, our business community, our parents, because this is a critical time for all of us and we need to get it right. Experience is going to count. Betsy Price, I appreciate your vote.
And with our extra time, we'll allow the candidates to address any of the previous questions, 30 seconds for each candidate.
I'd just like to talk about the population increase in Texas by 125%. The vehicles has increased by 172%. And the usage of vehicles on the highways has increased by 238%. However, we've only increased our state highway capacity by 6%. I'm really strong about our highways and our traffic again, because if we don't fix this now, we're going to start losing businesses out of Texas to other states. And we're #1 in the country for business, and we want to keep it that way.
In Tarrant County right now, we to answer the kind of go back to the property tax thing, instead of looking at that, let's look at ways we can cut without cutting workforce, because I don't believe we need to fire anybody right now, that doesn't need to be put in that position. Right now, we have $2 million worth of building rentals. We have a lot of buildings that are vacant that Tarrant County owns. Why don't we start consolidating that? Why don't we look at that? I mean, that's just a little bit of the budget. Why are we paying $2.2 million for a FEMA COVID CARES thing? Nobody I know is locked up for having COVID, so why are we spending that money to excessive?
So I'll talk about education. So education is the key to success. And what our leaders need to be doing is promoting education in every neighborhood and every community. And I would tell you that Fort Worth ISD is a train wreck, and it's failing our kids. And it's the reason Fortune 500 companies won't move to Fort Worth. What we need are leaders that'll tell the truth and shine a light where a light needs to be shined. And we need kids to be able to go to any school they want to go to. However the legislature pulls that off, I will be a voice in the legislature to say we need to let kids go to the best schools they want to go to, create competition inside the schools. Can I vote on that? No, but as a county judge, you can absolutely have significant influence, and having more Tarrant County state representatives endorsing me than the rest of these candidates combined, I can work with them and I can get them to work on that and make education a priority for everyone. A rising tide lifts all boats.
And student achievement really is what this is about, folks. There's a lot of noise around schools right now. The legislature outlawed CRT already, whether you like it or not. We have to get back to focusing just on student achievement. How do we teach them to read, write, do math, and science? Those are really what it's going to take for us to have the educated workforce. And it certainly isn't just Fort Worth ISD. There are 14 school districts just within Fort Worth's boundaries. Many of them are not where they need to be. As a community, we have to own education and get back to student achievement.
Okay, and with that, we conclude rebuttals and closing statements and this debate among Republican candidates for county judge. Thanks to each one of you for being here.
Thank you.